The Nets' big three saw their first action as a unit Wednesday night. So, what do we know about this team now? I'm Madeline Burke for Sports Illustrated alongside Alexia Jinsa and Howard Beck. And guys, the Nets and Cavs went to double overtime before Brooklyn lost this one to Cleveland. It's the first time we saw Harden, Katie, and Kyrie on the court together. What was your initial impression of this group?
My initial impression would be like offensively, they were looking very, very well, very, very good. It didn't seem like Kyrie basically missed a beat. So they have a great chemistry. Even though we kind of see that uh, James Harden in the first half only had 2 shots, so I don't know if it's not going to be like this every single game. But offensively, they were looking very, 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 very good. Defensively, it was completely different story. They basically make the Cavaliers looking like one of the best offensive team of the NBA 2021, which is absurd because we know that the Cavs is actually the worst offensive team. So it's a lot of gray area, but as the first game, it's very encouraging. Now I'm sure they're going to adjust stuff, and we also saw that Nash was actually coaching very well with putting all his big three with a lot of minutes on the court. So they're trying to have that chemistry right away.
Yeah, listen, offensively, they were exactly as explosive, as efficient, and as probably unguardable as you would expect Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant to be together. So that's the good news. And if people want to fuss over shot distribution and Kyrie taking twice as many shots as Harden and all this, and how's it go? It's one game. I'm not going to draw any conclusions about the balance or the pecking order. That's going to evolve over time. I think it's actually a good sign, frankly, that Harden didn't shoot that much, but seemed content to be the facilitator. And we'll see how that all balances out over time and how these guys figure out their chemistry. I would say, though, to pick up where Alexi left off, defense. This was something that a lot of us thought would be a problem the moment they made the trade. They lost a lot of depth. They lost Jarrett Allen, who they had to face last night in that game. And yeah, Colin Sexton just torched them in overtime, in the double overtime. The other thing that I would say is a warning flag of sorts coming out of this game. It goes double overtime, and Nash really only used 5 guys in the 2 overtimes. He only used 5 and only 8 for the game, and the majority of those minutes were the starting 5. So Kevin Durant's now averaging 42 minutes in the 3 games since the trade, and Harden, I think, is averaging 44 minutes or so during his stretch with the Nets so far. That's not sustainable, especially with Kevin Durant, his first season back from the Achilles surgery. I don't think this is a sound formula going forward. The Nets are going to have to figure out how to find more guys they can trust in this rotation.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, if you were to tell me going into this game, the most exciting player on the court when these three made their debut together was going to be Colin Sexton, I would have laughed. But I mean, that man dropped a 40 ball. He deserves a hat tip here. That being said, the Nets looked fun. The big three had no shortage of offense. And to your point, too, about chemistry, Steve Nash said, hey, the chemistry is going to be formed on the floor during games. It's going to take some time. They're excited about the possibilities. But really, before this trade was made, depth was a strength of this Nets team in the beginning of the season. They had an insane amount of depth, and that's just not quite the same since the Harden trade. And to your point about the minutes, it's just not sustainable. Jarrett Allen, he made a huge impact for the Cavs on the defensive end, and it's really kind of showing what the Nets need to pick up and need to figure out how to create defense. So quickly, I got to ask you guys, do the Nets need to add another piece to get that defensive side of the ball secured?
Me personally, I think they definitely need like some more depth in from the bench, basically, like because like yesterday we clearly saw that they were missing a lot, and basically like they're missing Jared Allen. You know, they're missing a big man that can play defense. They're missing Levert that can play defense on the wing as well. They need to be able to trust their guy from the bench, and as of now, pretty much sure that they don't trust them as much as we all thought. So they definitely need to bring some guys to come off the bench, bring you some more energy, and be able to play a good defense.
Yeah, Sean Marks, when they made this trade, he was clear about it. He said, listen, we know we've got some roster holes now. We're going to have to scour the market. They're going to have to find some solutions as they go. Maybe there's another trade or two to make, although there's not a lot of flexibility left for them in terms of tradable assets. But yeah, they need help up front. They didn't even play DeAndre Jordan in the 2 overtimes. And yeah, this team can play small. You can use Jeff Green at center. You can use Kevin Durant at center. But that's not something you want for the entirety of the game. And Kevin Durant's being asked to do an awful lot as it is. So giving him a ton of minutes at center also doesn't seem, again, like a sound plan going forward. And before we finish this topic, I should just note, fun trivia fact, Colin Sexton, who torched them last night, was drafted with a pick that came from the Nets. 8th overall pick in 2018. That was one of the picks that went to the Boston Celtics, the final payoff of the Pearson Garnett deal. And then that went to Cleveland for, of course, Kyrie Irving. So there you go.
Wow, full circle right here in the Pearson Garnett deal. Of course, the last time the Nets tried to bring in some superstars and build a big three, we saw how that one worked out. Of course, this is just one game here. We got a lot of ball game left to see how this group gels. Continue to check in and follow along with us on SI.com for more.